On today's show, we're joined by Postmedia's Bruce Garrioch for a Senators trade deadline primer. And is MacKenzie Weegar a realistic option?
This is Brady Tkachuk, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome. You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators. I'm Levitan and Brandon Piller. We'll be by in just a few minutes for a great chat with friend of the show, Bruce Garrioch. We get into all things Senators, 6 points out of a playoff spot right now. How does that change Steve Staios' approach to the trade deadline? All that coming up in just a few minutes. Got to let you know today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with a bet on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Today is Wednesday, February 11th, and the winter games are underway for men's hockey. We've got one game final at the time I'm recording this, where Slovakia pulled off an upset over Finland. I know Italy scored first in their game against Sweden. It's first intermission right now, but we're all fired up for tomorrow. Team Canada will make their debut at 10:40 a.m. It's a game against Czechia, and Jack and I will be live streaming that game. So if you want to throw it on in the background at work, you're taking the day off to cheer on Canada, we'd love to have you on YouTube, Locked On Senators. All right, we got over half hour coming up with Bruce Garrioch. Really fun conversation with him. So let's get to it right now. Here's Bruce Garrioch. All right, we now welcome a very special guest back to Locked On Senators for the fourth time. He's a former NHL head coach, and now he scoops. It's Bruce Boudreau. Welcome to the show, Bruce.
My doppelganger. It's his doppelganger, Bruce Garrioch.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God. I almost didn't make it through the first minute. He comes on, right? And, you know, I know him and he knows me. And I reached out to him because he does some work for TSN. He goes, oh, my God, I can't look at the camera. I feel like I'm looking in the mirror.
Honestly, one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And for those watching on YouTube, you can
both
you
Bruce's,
can
right?
This is a separate birth.
Bruce, don't let me down, Bruce. Right?
The big glasses on top of it. It's like you
know.
guys planned it out. You literally are both wearing the same
shirts.
style striped shirt. This is one of the funniest things I've ever seen, Bruce. I needed a laugh that morning, and you delivered. People can go watch the interview, by the way, ottawasun.com. The video's over there. You've been doing great one-on-one series with everyone over there, Scoops. But what was old Boudreau thinking about the Sens? We got a chance here?
Well, he thinks that they're probably the best Canadian team that isn't in the playoffs at the moment. And it comes down to one thing, and we've talked about it before, is, you know, number one is playing well defensively, but number two is the goaltending. And I think he said that he's seen a maturity in their defensive game, but they have to get the goaltending. And I thought that stat that Mike Kelly had last week about the Senators being 23-4-1 when they have a save percentage above 885 is remarkable. The only thing I would say is they get goalied a lot, right? And I think I think you get goalie guys when you don't go hard enough to the net. And I think their forwards have to be beyond Brady Tkachuk and Tim Stützle. And I think they have to be harder going to the net and going to the hard areas. Why are you not scoring when you get 40 shots? You're usually not scoring because you're not there for rebounds, or you're not where you need to be in front of the net. And that is one thing I'd certainly like to see in the final 25 games. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination they're out of it, but I still think it's a long shot.
Where do you think this team is at, Bruce, with what their next move or their path should be heading towards the deadline? Like, is this a team where you think, all right, they're right there, let's add a piece to give them a little bit more? Or is it, hey, we're playing good, we're getting better goaltending now, we don't need to add anyone, David Perron's going to be back shortly after the Olympic break? Like, where do you stand on what they need to do moving forward?
Well, I think they need to add a top four defenseman, and that's always. I don't think that they should go the rental route, because to go the rental route, they don't have a first round pick to give up. They don't have much in the organization. Teams are asking them for either Hensler or Yakimchuk. I'm not convinced that they want to go that route. I do believe it would be wrong to bring Yakimchuk, the way he's played defensively in Belleville, up here at this point. Steve Stale seems to want him to play here at some point this season, but I'm not sure that that's something you could do. Guys, they've had discussions with the Calgary Flames about MacKenzie Weegar. I have been told that those discussions have been beyond kicking tires, guys. There have been some serious discussions. It's not at the point where they've reached out to Weegar to see if he'd waive his no move clause, but I am led to believe that he would absolutely waive his no move clause. And if you think about it, guys, it gives them cost certainty with Sanderson and certainly Weegar till 2031, is it? And so, the contracts all kind of run together. So I think you can argue, look, he's got a horrible plus minus, but you can argue he's not on a very good team.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys think, but I don't think a short-term rental is the answer here.
No, but when it comes to MacKenzie Weegar, look, we were banging the table that summer. He ends up getting traded for Matthew Tkachuk, so you're not going to match that. But it sounded like the Sens thought they were close around the draft. Was that true, Bruce, in 2022 before they pivoted to DeBrincat?
Oh, I think that Pierre Dorion had some serious discussions regarding Weegar. I don't think that, and I think that certainly at that time Weegar's camp was pushing for Ottawa to get in there. I just think at that point, guys, they weren't prepared to spend that kind of money. You've kind of got a different makeup in that top four now. And look, we all appreciate everything that Nick Jensen did last summer to get back and play for this team. Absolutely. Worked his butt off. But look, I think you could package up Nick Jensen as part of that deal. It puts him closer to his home in Minnesota. He finishes off the year in Calgary. But I think you're going to have to give up either some kind of high-end prospect, and I can't say who that will be because I don't know who they're looking at. And I also think it may have to be a roster player, and I'm not going to start getting into names on that because they've taken enough shots at me.
But, I mean, the Calgary Flames, I feel like in the past, and you look at how they're built, like they've got a couple high-end prospect right-shot defensemen, Zane Prack, Hunter Brushevich, and so on. But then it feels like center is probably a position that they would want. But if I'm Ottawa, I'm not entertaining a talk for any of my young centermen in the system.
No, because if you think about their center position, like that's an area of strength for them. Once they got Shane Pinto locked up, their middle is now locked up to what, 4 more years after this? Yeah. So 2030 odd. Like you need strength in the middle, and they've got that strength in the middle. And there is a guy playing on the wing who could play center. But I don't know. I don't know if my sense has been that they don't want to make that move. I mean, I think if they really want to move that guy, the Philadelphia Flyers, they employ his father, Mark, they'd be in there in a New York minute to get Ridley Gregg. I don't see a scenario where Ottawa would move him.
No, I don't think they should either. Like Pilsy, he's been elite in terms of every team needs a versatile guy like that utility infielder, and that's Ridley Gregg.
Up and down the lineup, right?
And he provides insurance. Shane Pinto has been fairly healthy for the most part, but the shoulder injuries are there. If there's a long-term injury for Shane Pinto, you got a guy that can step in like Ridley Gregg. Bruce, I want to stick on Calgary, though. You talk about they're looking at MacKenzie Weegar. It makes a lot of sense, right? Shot defenseman. But it's going to be costly. And you said the players that a lot of teams are interested are Yakimchuk, Hensler. Maybe the Sens don't want to do that.
And probably Ridley Gregg.
Yeah, or Ridley Gregg. But where I want to pivot this to, and something Ross and I talked about, Is there any chance that maybe the Sens look at a lesser deal in Calgary, maybe a Zach Whitecloud? You get some cost certainty there. Not a bad contract at 2.75, 2 years after this. Good defensive right shot defenseman. Or is that the kind of move where it's like, well, it'd be nice to add him, but does that solve our top 4D problem?
I'm not sure that solves your top 4, does it? I mean, maybe, look, the guy's had a lot of success. I'm just not sure. I think they want someone who can stabilize that top 4, and I feel like Weegar could be that guy, and I think he'd be motivated to win in his hometown. 2 more years, okay. If you go get him, then I think Shabbat's got 2 years left, right? After this. And so you're going to have to figure out what you're going to do there on your left side. And how long has Zub got? Another year or 2 after this?
2 after this.
So he's got 2 more after this. So I guess if you wanted everybody to be UFA at the same time, go that route. But I still think you want some stability. And I think that's one thing that a guy like Weegar would provide is some stability.
Again, and it is one more year left for Zub after this one. So
it is, okay.
This year and one more,
So there you go. Like, you're going to have to figure out in the summer, guys, what you're going to do with Zub. So you're not like,
and
one of the things and one of the things you got to realize is, if a guy's willing to waive to come to Ottawa, you want to be able to keep him in Ottawa. I mean, look, like Alex DeBrincat, basically pulled the wool over their eyes, right? Said all the right things, but really had no intention of staying here. So I think that's one thing. If you've got a guy who's willing to come here, I think it's absolutely something you have to look at.
I think with just going quickly back to Weegar, like, I don't know if there's a world where you can kind of negotiate the price down here. Like, he's having like a very bad year. And I understand what you're saying, Bruce, about not being on the best team, but like, he's taken a ton of penalties. He's got the worst. He doesn't have a bad plus minus. He's wearing the green jacket right now. Yeah, he's dead last in the National Hockey League in plus minus. So if they're calling you and saying
he's very mean, Like, he's really mean.
Buy low.
You're very, very mean.
No, but you need to buy low on this guy. You look at Calgary and say, are you competing this year, next year, or the year after?
I think Steve Staios needs you in the boardroom with him.
We'll get back to our interview with Bruce in just a minute, but first, got to let you know, today's episode's brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. FanDuel is where you need to go to get in on the action. The winter games are here. If you're anything like us, you're locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the winter games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action, the drama of curling, speed skating. Oh, wow. Men's hockey, women's hockey, both are electric. FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. Pooley said that Pilsy's the junior VP of hockey operation.
Yep. Look out, Bruce.
Yeah. He's got the same phone that my toddler has. It doesn't connect to anybody.
But you know what else too, Ross? When you say buy low, he's also, if you look at the other thing is you are taking some salary off their books too.
Big time.
Right?
And
like
he's got a limited
6.25 million.
No,
doing you a favor.
Yeah,
he's got a full no move right. He's got a full no move right now. Becomes limited in a couple of years.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
So he's got all the cards, and he can say, "I want to go to Ottawa." And look what happened with Panarin when he had all the cards and wanted to go to LA. You get a prospect and a third round pick, and you're gonna like it. So
I do think, though, in this guy's case, there's a lot of interest. I believe the Detroit Red Wings are certainly interested, and I think there are several teams that have kicked tires on Weegar. So it's not like Ottawa's alone. So I know, like, you're in your I will buy low, maybe not if there's other competition. All you need is one person willing to pay the price, Ross.
That's it. Well, one person willing to pay the price where he wants to go, and we know that this guy loves Ottawa. I got one other random right shot defenseman question for you. Do you think there's a world where Nicholas Matinpalo goes to Sens and says, "Hey, can I get a fresh start here? Like, He's only played twice since the new year.
Yeah.
He's an Olympian. Come on.
I hope not.
Yeah,
Not,
me
because
neither.
I think he's a solid, I think he's been a solid player for them. I hope not. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what headspace he's in. I think that it's kind of funny, because the Four Nations kind of put him on the map. I mean, we really didn't know what Nicholas Matenpala was, and I remember Gord Miller saying to me about 2 or 3 weeks before a tournament, he says, "Oh my God, like Finland's blue line's in such bad shape. Like their next call is going to be Matenpala." And I'm thinking, really? But once I saw him play that tournament, you see he can compete at that level. I think I'm like you guys. I'm as frustrated for him as anybody, because I think he deserves to play. But we did say at the start of the Euro, now Spence is sitting. You have to have 8 defensemen or 9 defensemen in your organization who can play. And I think they've just got to keep them patient.
Yeah, just man, like get him in for more than one game at a time.
But he doesn't strike me as that kind of guy either.
No.
I mean,
national salary though, Bruce. He's on the one-way deal. So
yeah, well, I mean, how about McDermott?
Yeah, he hasn't played in a little while.
Yeah, and he's got I can't remember either. He's got another year left at 1.105 million or something like.
Do you know why it's that number, Bruce?
Why?
That's the maximum number that you can bury in the AHL without it affecting your cap higher.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
You're not just a pretty face.
I mean, hey, there's a reason we turn the lights on every morning. But hey, their record's still good. But I'm certainly all right without seeing Curtis McDermott live. Seems like a great dude, good vibes guy for morning skate. Keep the energy high. Give him the aux cord in the locker room. Let him play the tunes. But they've got enough depth up front, eh, Bruce? Yeah. Like my next question for you is about Stephen Halliday. Like we obviously love the kid. He's a 7-time recurring guest. Almost doubled your numbers, Bruce. Come on, wake up. Let's go here. But he's been awesome at the NHL level. He goes back to the AHL during the Olympic break. What's he do? 2 assists on a Saturday night. Like he's the disher down there. Is this realistic to expect him to stay up for the rest of the season, even if guys get healthy? Because no disrespect, Lars Eller's a good vet, but to me, like he's outproduced Lars Eller this season in his time in Ottawa.
Yeah, I think that I trust the way that they've handled players, and I know it's probably not popular that he's been sent back to the American Hockey League, but he didn't require waivers to be sent there. I'm always of the opinion if he's not going to play in Ottawa, then he should probably be available. One thing I think you guys got to realize is when they come back, and I think you do realize this, when they come back, they're 25 games in the battle for basically their playoff lives. And so if you're looking at that fourth line, if Perron is back, who's he going to play ahead of? You would put him ahead of Eller?
Yeah, I
would take the experience.
Yeah,
myself.
That's fair. That's fair. And obviously Eller's a way better face-off guy.
And I think that Eller has, in a lot of ways, been a bit of a surprise to me. I didn't think he had that left in him. The other thing is, and it kind of leads me to, so if they miss the playoffs, I don't know what you guys think. I don't think they need to tear this down.
No, me neither. No, they need a goal.
I think the only of their UFAs, I think the only guy I'd move on from is Jensen. I mean, maybe Eller is in a different headspace, and maybe he retires, and maybe they say to him, "Look, Stephen Halliday is ready to take your spot," and that's quite possible, guys. That is maybe next year is, but I think Halliday just has to be patient, and I think his time will come. So maybe it's not like if these guys miss the playoffs, it's not like they're going to have to tear everything down. They absolutely need to fix that defense on the right side in the top four, and I think the goaltending. I don't know. I think you I don't think by any stretch of the imagination they're giving up on Levi Merlainen. I think they just sent him down to get him some playing time. And I do see a scenario where they trade Mads Søgaard at this deadline. I think that ship has sailed. I look at it now, and you just got to hope that, look, Linus Ullmark was one of their best players down the stretch last year. You got to hope in the last 25 games, I think there's 5 back-to-backs, that he can play 20 of those, and he can do what he did down the stretch last year, because he played a massive role in getting them to the postseason.
Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business. It's easy to think there has to be a better way, because there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the easiest and quickest ways you can make improvements. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're creating more opportunities to connect with your customers. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number so nothing gets missed, and everyone can see the full conversation thread, which makes faster replies and keeping things more personal. Works right from your phone or computer, and you can keep your existing number. It's no surprise Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this year the one where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free. Plus, get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnhl. That's quo.com/lockedonnhl. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers.
I definitely want to get into the goaltending, but just on Stephen Halliday, is there a possibility that the Sens are using him as a trade chip? Bruce, we don't want to see him go. We like his potential, but you got Timmy locked up, you got Cousins locked up, you got Pinto locked up. Well, not locked up, but signed for a couple of years, and Ridley Gregg signed for a couple of years. We already talked about him being center insurance, and you can always plug and play fourth line centers. And I think Stephen Halliday is going to outgrow a fourth line center role fairly quickly once he gets consistent NHL time. Is this an idea where you can be like, hey, let's deal from a position of strength? We got centers. Let's use Halliday as a possible trade piece to bump up the blue line.
Early in the season, I know teams were looking at him, and some teams asked me about him and what I thought of him. And I said, look, this, he went in the AHL and helped them in the playoffs. Was it last year or 2 years ago?
He was was their best player. I went to all their home games. He was their best player.
Yeah, and so I think last year or early in the year, I think teams were calling on him. Again, you got to give up something to get something, but you got to be. We've seen in this organization where they went big game hunting, and it ended up being to their detriment. So I think I'm of two minds on that one. I think, you can plug and play your fourth line, sure, but if you've got a good fourth line, they play a key role when you want to get to it. When you get to the playoffs, a good fourth line in the playoffs can be a difference. David Perron talked about it when they won in St. Louis. He talked about who was their fourth line. He said they were a key part for them.
Yeah, and you could likely he's by the way owed a new contract after the season, Stephen Halliday, and I think that you could probably get it at a very reasonable price over the next 3 years or so. But I think he's probably going to be looking at maybe a one-way contract.
He's going to be looking at a one-way deal for sure.
Right? So you got to make room for him, and if that's the case, I think he's great, and you can also throw him on your second power play unit and be all right with that. And I think the more he grows and gets experience, that big body's going to be more and more of a strength for his, because he's still learning on how to hold pucks in the offensive zone away from these big NHL level defensemen, but when he figures that out, he's got the smarts, he's got the IQ, and
face-offs.
And face-offs, as most young players will grow out of, and Timmy's a perfect example of that. But man, I just think there's too much potential there to look a different direction, especially for the value. Like, you're not going to go out and get Weegar 1-for-1 for Stephen Halliday. Like, it's just not going to happen. So I don't think it's worth the squeeze in terms of his impact in another organization or what they would be willing to trade 1-for-1. I think it would have to be in a package, and that doesn't do it for me because, we want to see him grow here. Pilsy, you want to go goaltending?
Yeah, sure. So obviously they bring in James Reimer. It seems like a bit of a panic move. I think the question everyone's wondering, Bruce, is why didn't they just sign him in the offseason? I know they bring in Hunter Shepard as that kind of veteran insurance safety net guy.
Tweener.
But he just... Hunter Shepard was not a guy that had the experience that if you had to rely on him, you could feel confident about it. And that's why I was saying all off season, I was saying they got to get a guy exactly like Alex Lyon. That's the guy they need. And now look, Alex Lyon has had an incredible season with the Buffalo Sabres. Like, in your mind, was it just pure confidence of the Sens being like, we saw what Levi Merlainen can do. Yeah. We saw what Ullmark can do when he's healthy. And we trust that. Like, should they have not had some sort of contingency plan better than Hunter Shepard?
I think that I think it's exactly what you thought, Brandon. I think that they thought that if what they saw in the short stretch for Levi Merlainen last year and the success that he had in Belleville down the stretch, I think they just felt like, okay, our goaltending is set. We can move on from Anton Forsberg and Levi Merlainen and Linus Ullmark will be a very good combination. I think what you couldn't have predicted was that, that Linus Ullmark would leave for a personal leave of absence for mental health reasons and miss, 35 days of the season. Should they have had a better plan B? I think that here's my take. I think they should have moved on from Sogard last year and gotten a better plan B there. And I had said on question period that they could have bought Mads Sogard out for 1/3 of his contract because of his age. They should have gotten out from underneath that then. And to me, that would have been the move to make with goaltending. Instead, that they rolled back with him, and that's fine. But we've seen the results, and he's had a tough year again, injured. Went in relief in, what was it, Edmonton?
Colorado.
Yeah. 20 minutes, didn't feel well after 20 minutes in the net, and then Merlainen's got to go back in at a time he's struggling mightily. I think that it's something they need to address in the offseason, and it's something they need to figure out. And what they need to hope is that certainly that Ullmark's in a good place, and when they get back here, that he can pull off some of that magic, like I said, he had down the stretch last year. Yeah, but I know what you're saying about shouldn't they, but I think my personal feeling is they should have addressed it in another way.
Like, they have 4 goalies right now on one-way contracts. I'd forgotten that Mads is on a one-way, Merlainen's on a one-way, and Merlainen might be looking in the mirror right now saying, why did I sign a one-year deal?
Well, let's just go through the numbers. $8.25 million for Ullmark.
Okay.
0.05
for Levi.
1.05 million for Levi.
Yeah. $775 for Sogard and $850 for Reimer.
And
and hold it. And Hunter Shepard's on a $400 guarantee, and you're paying Korpisalo $1 million.
Yeah,
you're spending $12 million in goaltending here. Like, that's a lot of coin. So yeah, I mean, I don't think that Reimer will. Was it a desperate move? Yeah, it probably was a desperate move, but I think it's worked out okay.
Well, announcing it in the middle of an 8-2 blowout loss,
yeah,
pretty tough look.
Yeah. Anyway.
And Dreger definitely was just going to put it out the next morning, and he knew that he was going to be stirring the pot because Reimer was already in Belleville when that got announced, right? Like, it was already done before the game. But for it to come out mid-game, I mean, every fan that's watching that says, come on, guys.
It had been a tough day already.
It had been a very tough day, Bruce. Yeah. And we're a goalie-friendly show, so this is tough for us here as we're looking for someone to stay in there and stop the puck consistently. But I think it's even more infuriating because you look at all the numbers. You brought up Mike Kelly. We had him on a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, guys, like this team can still be a playoff team. And it was like a therapy session for us to an extent because we weren't willing to listen to him.
You won't be getting that from me, okay?
No, we weren't listening to him. So if you had to guess, Bruce, from being around the team, like, I don't even want to say how active because we know Steve is studying, always active with the phone. But what do you think the likelihood is that we see a trade deadline that even comes close to what we saw last year where he pulled off 2 major moves?
Well, I think that is probably a long shot. I think one of the things that another team told me is that you can't win every deal. And that's where it can be tough to deal with the Ottawa Senators because, and God bless them, they want to win every deal. Okay. But I think that's an area where I think he'll make one significant move. I can't see 2. I just think it's too hard in this scenario. How many sellers are there now as we speak at this kind of break we're in? 5, 6 sellers maybe. I think from my understanding, he's had talks with all of them. He's talked to the Pittsburgh Penguins, but now they're no longer a seller. I think they were after Raquel, and there's someone else on that
Brian
team.
Rust.
Yeah, I think that they certainly were in on Kiefer Sherwood. I think if you gave Travis Green some truth serum, he'd tell you in a minute to give up whatever you can to get Connor Garland. I think that I don't know that there's anything to any of this Wallstedt stuff. I think that's just after what we just peeled back on goaltending. I don't see that happening.
Hey, Bruce, what about Philip Gustafson? Could he be a fit?
Oh my God, are you going to be okay?
No.
You could probably let that go now.
Hey, what about Joey Decord? He available?
Yeah. Come on, you can't rewrite.
You know what? I need to do a mea culpa. I am the one person that cannot be like Philip Gustafson. Can he come back? I was out on Philip Gustafson.
I had a guy write
all team Decord.
You're like the guy who wrote me yesterday, so I guess
no, that was me, Bruce. That was actually me.
No. So guy writes me, he says, because I'd written that little thing on Tkachuk's name being spelled wrong. He says, in 1988, the Ottawa Citizen spelled Gretzky's name wrong with an S. I said, you could probably let that go now. And he wrote me back. He said, no, I like to hold a grudge. Which I thought was pretty good. That was quick. You got me. Yeah,
that is good. I like that. Oh man, yeah, it's frustrating. Do we know, like, is Linus all good? Like, it was just like a quick illness. Like, we're expecting him to be ready to go.
So I expect he'll be ready. Now they return to practice on the 17th at 2 p.m. They'll do so without me. And
how are they going to manage?
That might be tough.
They'll probably be okay. The questions will be a lot smarter.
Bruce, final question for me. We appreciate your time. We're going to drop this in the next couple of days, but we're chatting with you here on February 9th, and it's the 10-year anniversary of, to me, the most shocking trade in Senators franchise history when they acquired Dion Phaneuf in like a 55-player deal. Take me back to, did you have any inkling that the Sens were going to trade for the Leafs captain?
Well, I got to tell you, and I could probably tell it now. Clark MacArthur, of course, is Dion Phaneuf's cousin, and I don't think he was playing at the time. Yeah, he was playing.
Yeah,
he wasn't out with an injury at that time, and he said about, I don't know, 2 weeks before, he said, I just had the strangest conversation with Brian Murray. I said, what? He says, well, he was asking me about Dion Phaneuf and whether Phaneuf would come here. And, it was kind of like that. He said, I can't see the Leafs. Like, he played in Toronto. It's like, I can't see the Leafs doing a deal with Ottawa. And then about a week later, he says, I think there's some traction here. Like, I think they, and look, I didn't want to burn Clark, right? But so that morning, like Cowan's on the ice, and they kind of had a kind of a, I think it was an optional skate of some type. Like, I think they had an off-ice workout, and only a few guys were on the ice, and Cowan was among them. And I texted him. I said, "Something's going on here." He said, "I think it's done." 10 years ago, right? Today? Wow.
10 years ago today. Yeah. Jared Cowan, Colin Greening, Milan McCulloch, Tobias Lindbergh, and a second-round pick for Dion Phaneuf, Matt Fratton, Casey Bailey, Ryan Rupert, and Cody Donahue. How do all these other names get involved in this trade?
Well, it was money, right? And I think basically Milan McCulloch, they told him they'd send him to the minors and make him ride the bus if he didn't waive his no move clause. Funny story, Colin Greening. So he rents the place and looks across the street. His new neighbor. He told the guy he rented from, he said, "You've got to be kidding me." He said, "No, it lives across the street." The guy doesn't know. Right?
That is so funny. Man, 10 years ago
Colin
today.
came home with lunch from the rink every day.
No way.
I just wish once he brought some for me.
Come on. He might be one of the smartest players to ever play for Ottawa. Wasn't he?
Good guy.
Ivy
really
League
good
school,
guy.
Newfoundlander too.
Oh,
Yeah,
really good guy.
Oh, that's awesome. Bruce, how many phone calls a day on average between now and the March 6th trade deadline for you?
None this week, okay? Like,
nice.
You guys are my last commitment this week.
Okay.
I've got a story I got to file. It's been...
Last commitments, 10:30 a.m. on Monday, by the way.
And then I'll get back at her
after.
I'll get back at her on the 19th or 20th, and then there'll be lots of texts, believe me.
Oh, I love that.
Because I do think that GMs are taking a break. I think they're taking this week, and then I think they will be back at it next week, because then you're inside that deadline. So,
final question for me, Bruce, is the way the Ottawa Senators play the next handful of games leading up to the trade deadline, do you think that's going to change how Steve Staios approaches the deadline? Or is it, look, we like our team, we're trying to build forward no matter what, we got the same idea? Or could you see them being like, we're kind of out of it, let's sell off these expiring deals, the Ellers, the Jensens, the Perrons? Like, do you see any sort of shift happening based on play or standings?
I think that's a discussion that's going to be had in the next couple weeks, where I do think at some point, I said this on my last question period, I think at some point that Pat Brisson will sit down with Claude Giroux here and say, what do you want to do? Do you if these guys are out of it, do you want to go to a contender? That discussion hasn't been had yet. That discussion certainly has not been had with David Perron. I think this is just me knowing Staios. I think that the way he operates is, before he went selling off those guys, he'd ask them if they want to do it. I think he believes in this group, and I think he's deeply respectful of this group. And I think before he made that bold a move, and I think he'd say to them, what do you want to do? But hey, if they come out, they've got 4 games before the deadline?
Detroit, Toronto right off the bat, then Edmonton, Calgary on the road before the deadline.
So I think you're right, Brandon. Like, if they lose 4 straight, then let's throw in the towel here, and then you decide what you're going to get for those assets. But I do think that is a discussion he'll have with them.
Man, can't wait for that. Always an exciting time. Bruce, last time you were on with us, you broke the Jordan Spence trade, so feel free to come back on and break some trades here. Going into the deadline, March 6th. Bruce, appreciate you. Everybody already knows. You can read his work. Let me promo your material here, Bruce, over at Postmedia and Question Period with TSN. And you can find the one-on-ones, like with his doppelganger, Bruce Boudreau, there on the Ottawa Sun website. Bruce, appreciate you, man.
Good to talk to you guys. Always good to visit.
Stick taps to Bruce for joining us. Really appreciate his insight, and I could not stop laughing at his post last week. If you haven't seen it yet, that Bruce Boudreau, Bruce Garrioch, Spider-Man meme, all time. If you haven't noticed, Pilsy is on vacation, but don't worry. We've got 3 interviews booked for you today, tomorrow, and Friday. Great conversation tomorrow with TSN host Graham Creech, the Creature, making his return to the show. And then Friday, we'll catch up with Stephen Halliday, dishing some great stories and more as we head into the weekend. And just a reminder again, Jack and I will be live tomorrow for the Canada game. Hope to see you there. Thanks so much for liking, watching, listening, and engaging with the show. You can subscribe everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.